Hey everyone, Smash the Knee Pass Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it is time for a review of the new 1975 album Notes on a Conditional Form. English pop rock outfit The 1975, Matthew Healy and the gang, they are back. While I've never been a big fan of the 1975, I do have to admit, over the years their music has grown riskier and more interesting, with Notes on a Conditional Form, their fourth record, being their longest and most adventurous project yet. This thing is 80 minutes, 22 tracks, and there is so little rhyme or reason to any of it. I can just imagine review sites pouring over this thing saying, "Oh, it's the band's White Album. It's just so all over the place." When honestly, it's just way too domestic and trendy to be any such thing. Not to say this record is terrible because it's not the White Album, or even that it's terrible, because there are actually quite a few good highlights on Notes on a Conditional Form, but their impact is lessened by being a part of a track list that is so cumbersome, overloaded with half-baked songs, derivative detours, even stuff that, while not terrible, would have sounded a lot better on a band member's side project EP or something. But seriously, I think my biggest source of entertainment on this album was sitting patiently and waiting to hear how the band would disappoint or underwhelm me next. What genre would they do it with now? Whether it be with the two utterly pointless orchestral interludes on the first leg of the record that just are just there. You would think that once they started introducing themselves, this would become a theme throughout the rest of the album, but no, they're just in the first portion. The second of them actually just sounds like the band tuning up, not really playing a piece. There are even a few tracks on this thing set to two-step rhythms, and I feel like the only reason they're included here is because of that. I mean, the songs attached to these tracks are not great. The best one, I think, was I Think There's Something You Should Know, which had the strongest vocal, most cogent chorus, hooky piano loops too, captivatingly chill breakdown, but the others are just totally throwaway. Could have easily been left on the cutting room floor because it would have made this track, this standout track, seem so much more novel. Then there's the second to last track, Don't Worry, with its piano and auto-tune vocal layers that just sounds like Bon Iver all the way, to the point where it's absolutely distracting. The song Having No Head also features some gorgeous pianos, but set to now some building electronics, buzzing synths, driving house beats. Why does it sound like a John Hopkins song? It just sounds like a John Hopkins song. Not a bad one, though. However, I think the most unapologetic ripoff on the record comes in the shape of Jesus Christ 2005 God Bless America, which is essentially some Sufjan Stevens brand indie folk circa mid to early 2000s, with the horns and the gently strummed guitars and the hushed vocals. Matt Healy is even singing about his relationship with religion. You know, it's one thing for an album to be so inconsistent in terms of sound and style, and it's another thing for a band who is adopting so many different styles to not be putting a fresh twist on those sounds to the point where they are coming off essentially like a cover band.
Woo! Shout out to covers bands! I love covers bands!
There's also the track What Should I Say, which I can't shake the feeling that the band wrote this one out of a deep love and appreciation for Kanye West's Fade off of The Life of Pablo. The dance grooves, synth bass, and some of the vocal manipulations too just all seem a little too close for comfort. Now, occasionally a great song actually comes out of the band's genre-hopping exploits. Me and You Together song may sound like a pop rock hit written for radio back in the 90s, but hey, it's catchy as hell, blissful, sweet on the ears. One of the more well-written on the entire record, for sure. If You're Too Shy, Let Me Know is pure new wave revivalism done pretty well. Bright synths, punchy rhythms, beaming guitars, captivating vocals. I will say, though, that a song flirtatiously pushing someone into taking off their clothes in an online setting seems a little too eager for someone who is a woke soldier like Mr. Healy, but I don't know. Still slaps. I mean, sonically, this song is exactly the type of thing Patrick Bateman would be talking your ear off about, just how amazing it is, and the deeper meaning of the song just before he puts an axe through your skull. Then there's the closer Guys, which is maybe the most true song on the record, meaning that it feels like the 1975 and nothing else. It's just dreamy, blissful pop rock, well-written, tasteful chorus, played super straight. It's as if the zaniness of the previous 21 tracks just didn't even happen. And let me tell you, there's some supremely goofy shit going on with those other 21 tracks. Like with Bagsy Not in Net, why is everything in the mix on this track so drenched in reverb? It's faint, it's hollow, you can't really make out much. The strings and the sequenced beat and the vocals barely feel like they're syncing up and aligning most of the time. Then there's Nothing Revealed, Everything Denied, which is a total mess. We have giant group gospel vocals that transition into awful, terrible, horrendous, pitch-shifted, rapped verses. Then one of the worst EQ'd guitar solos I've heard in my life. Equally ridiculous, but actually somewhat more enjoyable, is the track Shiny Collarbone, which is these hard, groovy rhythms that are laced with all of these dance hall vocal samples. The track does have a legit progression to it. Again, it's actually quite good and features some pretty novel ideas, but this to me reads more like a song that, I don't know, you would see in a Pitchfork blurb if it happened to surface on one of the band members' SoundClouds or something. This does not read to me a song by the 1975, especially right after the track Tonight I Wish I Was Your Boy. And look, surely there is a way to make all of these genres come together cohesively and segue into each other effectively, but it seems like the 1975 just doesn't give a fuck. They don't care about how all of this shit sounds together. It's like they're just kind of sequencing-wise, throwing it all into a random order because maybe they expect their fans to chop their favorite tracks out and just, I don't know, throw those in a playlist they love at the end of the day anyway. If it weren't for it being a single, never, ever, ever would I in a billion, million, gazillion, trillion years expect to hear the song People on this record. There is a seriously aggressive punk energy to this track that is very much unlike the 1975. It's still a pretty great song though, with a kick-ass chorus and an even blend of garage rock and post-hardcore and noise rock. It sounds almost like a McCluskey song, which I wouldn't be surprised if someone in the band was into them, because considering some of the eras of music they're pulling from, they were a pretty popular band around that time, but still, that being said, I guess I also admire the guts it takes to name your opening track the 1975 and then have it be 5 minutes of Greta Thunberg talking about climate change set to Brian Eno style ambient electronics. I mean, I vibe with the message, and it's cool the band, put that message out there. It's something people should be thinking about. Then with the track The Birthday Party, we have some very gentle, folky instrumentation, Healy essentially flexing his narrative muscle on this one lyrically. With interviews, Matt has been pretty open about his struggles with addiction, and even though the tone of the lyrics, in a sense, is pretty jovial, I'm with friends, flirting with girls, at the hotel room, simultaneously it seems like in the back of his head he knows he's slipping back into bad habits and he's depending on his friends to stay clean, and that's obviously not going very well. Yeah, maybe would have preferred something just a bit more focused than this. Cause look, I think there's a pretty good album, like, hidden in here if you maybe chopped away like a third of the tracks. Again, none of them really complement each other, come together in any significant way, and while I have heard and have enjoyed records in the past that change styles and sounds quite a bit, the new Perfume Genius record is not the best example, but certainly the most recent example I could think of, where you have a lot of genre changes across an entire album, and yet it is still very, very, very enjoyable because the songwriting is consistently focused. There is a strong central voice and songwriting style kind of bringing all of the tracks together, even if they are in landing in different genres. However, that's just one way I think to pull this sort of thing off. In the case of the 1975, I don't think they did. For the most part, this thing sounds like kind of a mess, and I will refer to a point I made earlier and say once again that this feels like, yeah, we know people are going to pull the record apart into playlists and stuff like that, so it doesn't really matter how it all plays as a cohesive unit. Some fans are going to gravitate toward these tracks, some fans will gravitate toward these other tracks, tracks, and hey, if someone manages to stream the entire thing from front to back, that's more money in our pocket anyway, because we put a lot of tracks on the damn thing. Feeling a decent 2 strong 5 on this one. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe, and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, the 1975 of Forever.